Hey everybody, it's Sophie and Marco dishing out on the movies.
The TV shows.
But today it's TV shows and it's episode 5 of Better Call Saul.
I thought it was 2 or 3.
Called
5?
Quite a Ride. Alright, well, so far out of 5 episodes, the show has begun with a black and white far into the future scene with Jimmy passing out on the floor of a Cinnabon, and a retro scene featuring Mike as a young father installing a sidewalk and allowing his son to write his name Matty into the wet concrete with a stick. In last night's opening scene of episode 5, Saul Goodman broke into the ceiling tiles and also the wall of his office to collect all the money he's made during the Breaking Bad show and placing the call that will take him to a new life. Plus, that secretary he and Kim hired is shredding files. It's a scene we never got to see because the main focus of Breaking Bad was on Walter White and Jesse's finale scenes together.
And I liked how it connected to the cell phone stuff because, he has a drawer full of cell phones.
That's right.
You learned that from this cell phone storyline. And so I like that little connection there.
Back to today. What's going on? Well, 2/3 of this episode focused on how Jimmy, Kim, and even Howard are adjusting to life after Chuck.
Howard's in this episode?
Yeah, but it's pretty brief. But no briefer than our little friend. Well, you'll see. The longest scenes feature Jimmy and his work at the cell phone store, and Kim arguing small-time criminal cases in court, where she's defending a client, and Howard. The scene with Howard is almost infinitesimal comparatively, but very telling and a bit shocking. I'll leave it at that for now. The other third of the show featured Mike and 2 strangers who came to town. What did they do there? Where did Mike take the men? After the first man's interview, Mike dropped him back at his rental car with an airline ticket in his pocket. He was actually in one piece. His services apparently were not needed. The second man, which I think starred in the funniest scene in the show, my opinion, but I thought it was funny.
Your opinion.
He stayed longer and had very meticulous work habits, which turned into an extensive long scene. This may have bored some people, but for me, the length of that scene was okay, but I'll talk about that later. I wasn't totally positive about what they were doing at first, but when Gus, who I was trying to remember...
No, you had to ask me. You were really confused about what was going on, and I had to remind you and tell you about it.
Well, anyway, Gus made an even shorter appearance in the episode than Howard. He made maybe a 60-second or even a tiny bit longer appearance at the end of the scene of the second visitor. And after his appearance, the intention of these stranger interviews became a little bit clearer. Okay, Marco, what would you like to talk about? We have several topics, or whatever. We don't want to talk about that big one until the end, I think.
Okay, number one, I have to wonder why this episode is so long.
Yes, that's a good question. That's a basic question. Why was it longer than the others so far?
It was very disjointed. This season's kind of been disjointed, besides Jimmy's storyline and Howard's storyline, the way it's edited, I guess, it's disjointed. Because we got to see like a 10-minute scene of that German architect fumbling around, but then we didn't get to see a 10-minute scene of Mike doing that second inspection last episode. The one where he complains about the straps. We get to see that. It's like a minute or two long, but we didn't get to see like the full thing. Why was that cut short and this was long? Stuff like that. The Jimmy stuff, I predicted that this episode would be more Jimmy focused, like, you know, because he's the primary focus of the show, but sometimes those other guys overshadow him a little bit, so it's kind of good to separate them a little sometimes.
What guys? Nacho?
Yeah, Nacho and Mike and Jimmy. Like, the thing is, though, is that Mike and Jimmy are supposed to be partners in the Breaking Bad era, so...
Well, they haven't set that up yet. So.
Yeah, they haven't set... It's been a relationship of doing favors for each other.
I think they might be setting that up next week. It looked like maybe in the...
Who knows?
Yeah,
Safi.
Who knows? That's right.
It'll be rushed for sure.
We don't know because sometimes I think they show things and it doesn't really...
Yeah,
it's just a red herring.
Yeah.
It's a red herring.
So, I thought it was a good episode, although I kind of question the choice of editing, the choice of... I don't know how to describe it. It was too long, and I didn't really see... Oh wait, no, this is what I mean to say, is that it feels like a setup episode even though it's halfway through the season. Season 3, we had that beautiful episode in the courtroom where Jimmy humiliates Chuck in front of everybody. That's where we were at last year. This year, we're at like a screeching halt at a cell phone store, and he's not really doing that bad of a thing.
What do you mean, bad of a thing?
Well, I don't want to get into it and spoil it for people. The thing that he's doing that's like supposedly like, ooh, look.
The thing that we have a disagreement about what exactly he's doing.
Yeah. And, it's just, I don't know, it's a little over portrayed like it's, I don't know, something terrible. And I don't think it's bad at all, to be honest. He's just trying to make a good impression.
Well, I don't know if I agree. I don't know if it has anything to do. I guess he'll leave a good impression, and that'll just be a bonus. But I mean, if you want, when do you want to talk about that? In the spoilers?
Yeah, in the spoiler section. What did you think of this episode, Safi?
Well, I liked it. My thing is, but we'll talk about this later, is that when we watched, when whoever out there else watched Breaking Bad, and we saw everything all set up. Walter White came into what he was doing, and Saul was set up. He was a lawyer already. He was dealing with bad people. He was arranging things, meetings,
and places.
It was all set up.
But here's the thing where it's bad, though, is that he would have connections that were just kind of like coincidental, like needed for the show. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he would have connections that are critical to Breaking Bad, but not necessarily just a lot of connections in general.
Yeah, but there's no way, he had to have, some of these connections had to be more permanent because they're doing illegal things and they have to trust each other. And you
Yeah,
can't just get somebody at the last second because you don't know, that could be a setup, that could be an undercover sting or something. If it was somebody they didn't know, it'd have to be. That's why I say they're setting up of what we would see later in Breaking Bad. It's not just going to happen overnight.
they're not even getting close to setting it up. They'll like.
No, they're very far away from it, really.
And you have that other guy. Remember that bald guy who goes to prison for a living because he
Oh
can't.
yeah.
I mean, very very convenient for the Breaking Bad show. But where's he? How does he get introduced? How does that get set up?
And do they? But will they even show that?
There's so
I don't
many
know.
questions.
Well, Marco is going to talk about. He's starting to drift off to the thing that he's having a fit about on his recent foray into doing research on the future of the show.
I'm having a fit because it's a trend with a lot of modern day shows.
Well, I think we should talk about the show, and then that'll be the last thing that we talk about.
That'll be the very last thing.
Because I think we'll want to see
if this episode's really good.
We'll want to see if any of you want to make a comment about it. I think somebody out there might have a feeling about it. So anyway, do we want to talk about Kim, what she's doing, and why?
Kim, well, that would be spoiler alert.
Okay,
but
well.
Just general thoughts about the episode. What did you think? So you think that?
Well, I think she's
there's
just.
a lot of stuff being set up.
I'm kind of scared because she's not in Breaking Bad, and I don't know what's going to happen to her. So every time something's is going on, I get scared she's going to get killed or something. I don't know. And she's either going to. I mean, why isn't she in the Breaking Bad episode? I mean, these are just questions you have to ask yourself. Is she going to get killed? Because there's lots of. She's starting to take these cases. Well, and I said that when I was talking about what the episode's about. It's about her. It's about Jimmy.
She's taking cases. People.
Yeah, but with people who are really down and out, and who are in trouble. And of course, why would they be going to court or whatever? And I said it was about Mike and these strangers, and then a little bit of Howard. Mainly about Kim and about Jimmy. And of course, it's Better Call Saul. It's Better Call Jimmy.
I made a point that upset Safi a lot. I said that Kim is kind of like wasting her time a little bit with these people. And I'm not saying that like in a general sense. Like if you're talking about anywhere, any show, anything, I'm talking about this universe and this world. We know that Breaking Bad is coming in a couple of years, 4 years into the future of this show's universe. So we know that the drug problem is going to get worse and worse. So all these people that she's, quote, helping, she's really not helping them very much because they're just going to get worse and worse because of Breaking Bad. We know it's going to happen, right?
Well, we don't know about these particular people. Maybe they'll go off and do something.
Maybe.
Go somewhere. But we don't know that.
There's a slight chance, but we know this universe. And we know what path the community is headed in.
We'll see. And that's true. And Marco speaks from experience because of this community we live in has been the epicenter of the opioid epidemic in the United States. So he has a little bit more of a negative view. And also Breaking Bad is what he says it is, or it was when we watched it. So, but why is she doing? She doesn't seem unhappy. She in fact, this episode, I'll just say what her frame of mind is, or at least the way it looks. I thought she seemed a little bit more content and happy happier than last time, and so did Jimmy.
Again, everybody's behavior is really off.
Well, it is. It's still off, yeah,
Which
but
is
it's
weird because Chuck was a piece of shit and he deserved to die. And, I don't understand why they're all so affected when he was such a horrible person. They should be happy. They should be on a good path
well,
after
Marco,
getting rid of him.
that's terrible to say, and
It's true.
well, it is interesting that they're all Jimmy, Kim, and Howard all seem to be affected. And Jimmy, of course, that was his brother,
But
so I mean that would make sense.
it
But
changes.
Kim and Howard are, I mean, Howard, out of the three, and I mentioned this already, he had very little screen time. He probably, I don't know, maybe he was on there for 5 minutes or less. Gus was on there maybe 60 seconds, and just that short amount of time revealed more than a whole 60 minutes worth of airtime. It's amazing. And
But my point was that their behaviors are fluctuating
yes,
each
they're
episode.
fluctuating.
Like last week, or no, wait, the week before, Kim was like having a breakdown, and I could tell that it. Sorry, it was predictable that there would be problem with the paperwork because it seems like she can't handle doing this work herself, so she's having this other girl do it.
Marco is talking about Mesa Verde, and she has this. I can't for some reason. Maybe Marco, what's the name of the position that girl has?
I don't know.
I can't think. It's the person who
but it
lawyers
matter.
have them.
It doesn't matter.
She's doing this. She's kind of like an assistant, and it's what they do. I think they're lawyers, but they're kind of an assistant. They gain favor and they get experience by doing what this girl does.
You could tell she was gonna mess something up.
She's been taking
because
on Kim's work.
Kim has not been doing all of her work like usual in season 3 and 2.
No, and she seems less
motivated,
responsible, or motivated. We just don't know. But and when she's with these, they showed her with two. I'll call them less fortunate clients. They're not wealthy. They're a kid. I think he might have been a teenager or just out of teenagehood.
And he didn't even do anything really.
What he did was he had I think it was a concrete block and threw it through a jewelry store or some store.
Yeah.
And but anyway, we don't need to go into all that even to reveal it. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But the fact is, she really gives it to him good, and she seems to enjoy, keeping him in line and telling him what he needs to do and taking care of his case. And the other one's a young woman who might be in her 20s, and
you can tell she's inexperienced. She's gonna make a mistake. Wow, it's really that's the most predictable thing that's happened in the Better Call Saul series.
So I guess we're not going to talk about Jimmy quite yet because.
Well, as I said earlier, what Jimmy was doing, I didn't consider to be the worst thing in the world to be doing, like the show is making it out to be. Like, ooh, look at what Jimmy's doing. It's really dark. It might lead to somewhere dark in a future episode, because I saw a picture for another episode like 7 or 8 or 9, and in this episode's picture he's still doing the thing that he's doing in this episode. So it could lead somewhere interesting like that. So,
and what do you want to do? Talk about Mike and the visitors, or do you want to talk about?
Well, let's just give our final thoughts. It was a good episode. The pace is off. It's disjointed, but it's still very enjoyable. I give it a B minus. What do you give it, Sophie?
I'll give it a B. A B. There was no cartel in it at all, like I said. I said it at the beginning what's in it. And there's no cartel of any kind except for Gus showing up for like 60 seconds or maybe 90 seconds to tell the guy that they shake hands and that's it. Really says, well, you think it's going to work or something like that. And the guy said, it's not impossible. And so Gus says, great, or whatever. And that was it.
Stop spoiling the episode. Just tell them your thoughts.
Well, that was it. Well, anyway, there was one little
spoil
violent thing,
now?
and I don't know. I just think it's another, like Marco said, it's a setup episode, and for what's to come later.
Which is weird because it's already halfway through the season. It's very off-paced.
I'll still give it a B because I think it's interesting, just the acting.
Terrible.
I thought Howard did an excellent job because, like I said, he's a mess. And so he's only on screen for like 5 minutes. How can you get all that? Well, we will tell you about in 5 minutes.
It reminds me of the filler in Breaking Bad. How you would have just these huge parts of episodes with just filler and side stories that didn't matter. That's what this episode reminded me of. That's what a lot of the season feels like. It's not going anywhere.
And Mike, basically he's just really he's like a tour guide person, and well, I guess we're not going to say what's
it's
going on.
It's spoiler alert now.
But I think he's a really good actor in terms of his facial expressions. Last week he was in that group, and when his daughter-in-law started talking about, well, I didn't think about my dead husband all day. Today, you could tell he was like about ready to explode. You could tell that in his face. I mean, he's acting. And then when the fake mourner comes in and starts talking about a wife he doesn't really have, you could tell it's this cop face that he knows the guy's lying, so he has a different expression. And then in this episode, he has this face that when the second guy is in the van with him, and it's another emotional revelation. It's just little stuff. But I mean, this is somebody who can act without even saying a word, but just by looking at his face reveals a lot. And I just liked that. I thought that was interesting. And so, and then for Howard just to be on there so briefly, and Gus to be
the letter.
I don't know, and then
It's
Gus to be
letter.
on a little, even less, and they're just brief, almost cameo appearances. Added a lot to the show, more than some of these long, drawn-out other things that went on.
Howard wrote the letter.
Okay, Marco's giving you a spoiler. He thinks...
We're on the spoiler section.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
We're on the spoiler section?
I told you that.
Okay, well, are we spoiling everything, or should we...
Well, we don't need to spoil everything. We can
Not going to say about
have a discussion.
What else happened with Kim, but it was significant. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think it looks good with Mesa Verde. I'll just say that. Okay. And then with...
they're kind of stupid people, too.
Well, they're greedy. I think they're greedy.
They are greedy, and they're stupid because she's only one person.
Yeah.
She's only one lawyer.
I think they're unfair and they're
an
greedy.
independent law firm, and yet they're expecting her... I mean, they should have been with a bigger firm.
Plus the fact that she just had a terrible car wreck when she almost lost her life, and you'd think they'd be a little bit more understanding.
They've been understanding with her.
It just didn't happen yesterday, and I just think, and like I think Marco was right, And so I think they're just getting away with not having to pay a big fee to a big law firm. They're getting away with paying less and
Yeah.
asking for a lot. To me, that's what I'm saying. I think they're greedy and selfish. And anyway, well, we'll see what happens with that. And so will you.
So
So,
what Jimmy was doing, I didn't consider to be bad at all.
okay, this is what my interpretation of what this is a spoiler of what Jimmy did. Of course, well, you saw what they did. He goes back to the cell phone store. And wasn't this in the middle of the night when he was ringing up all
Yeah.
these purchases? Ringing up, and you can see it's almost like he's doing accounting where he's ringing up the register and then he's receipt and then the next receipt and then the next receipt. Like, let's say there's 100 people there standing in line, invisible people, and each one of those people is buying a phone. And so he's ringing up each purchase. And so remember, he got all this money from that figure, from doing that, selling that figure on eBay, the one that he had his friend take, and they both shared on the profits of it. He split the profits with them. So he has this extra money. So I think he paid for, with his own money, he paid for all these phones at the regular rate that they sell them at the store. So let's say they sold them for $50 a piece, which I'm sure it was a lot more. So he paid for it all, put it on the register. All the receipts will match up to the money that he spent or put into the register.
But if he was doing that, I mean, I don't. It just didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like a greedy scheme like that. It felt like he wanted to boost up sales to make the store look like it was doing really good, so that he could get more money from the store, from, for a salary, get a raise,
I don't think
or
so.
maybe get to a better store.
I have a more negative view of that. Marco thinks that. My opinion was that. Well, let's say what he did after.
It's portrayed as like he's doing like the worst thing in the world.
It is
really
crappy,
weird.
and it's boring. Which he makes a call. The last episode, he called and said, "Can't you get me to a busier place?" Because he likes talking to people.
He's bored. So the best way to get to a busier place, maybe that's another thing. Maybe he's bored, so this is a way of curing his boredom.
Well, that's
by
what
being
that is.
able to interact with these criminals.
Well, yes.
Who need the phones?
No, but anyway, he buys these phones. He leaves, and this is in the middle of the night. Like after 12:30 at night, and he has a tracksuit on.
The tracksuit that he used for the really bad scheme in season 3.
And he's not wearing a suit. He's wearing a workout suit. So anyway, he goes and he finds every bad, and I'll say bad loosely, people who are engaging in, probably could be, well, they're all out late. What are they doing out late that night? It's during the week. It's a business week. So I don't know. They're not. I can't say they're all bad because that's not fair either. But anyway, he sells all the phones off. And my thing is that let's say they cost $50 at the store. So maybe he's selling them for $75 or $80 or $100.
I thought that he just rang them out, like he like somebody bought them, and the money that he was getting out there was the money that he would put in the register later.
No.
There's no way that a register could sense that there's.
No, the register.
That's
not going to happen.
He printed out all those receipts.
That's right, and he paid for. I'm sure he paid for it with the money that he got from that figure.
I don't think so.
Well, I think he did.
No.
Well, let's say he didn't.
I'll check it.
Well, let's say he didn't.
If he didn't, then you're making it a lot bigger than it is.
Well, okay. Well, if he didn't, he's got to replace the money, because what happens after he finds all these people? My opinion was he paid for the phones with his own money at the regular rate. And then he went out to all these people and he sold them for more than what he paid for them, so he would make a profit off of them from all these people. Okay? And so and he's also making a connection with them too.
He's acting very peculiar, Sophie.
It is peculiar.
He has very odd behavior. So isn't it possible that he's just doing this to make a good impression?
No, I don't think so.
Isn't that possible?
No.
Why?
I just don't think so.
He doesn't talk about it at all to anybody.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't say anything like, "Oh yeah, look, we can make profit off of cell phones."
Okay, just
like he just goes out and all he says is, "I want to make a good impression."
I just don't believe it. So anyway, something bad happens. It's probably the most violent thing in the whole episode. Last week we saw probably 25 people get murdered in cold blood by 2 Mexican Terminators. But nobody gets. I'm not saying anybody gets killed, but what happens is.
Well, we don't need to go over what happens. Just
this is a spoiler part, right? Though.
Yeah, we don't need to like tell people like they haven't because.
Okay, well, something bad happens, but nobody gets killed.
If they're watching the spoilers, then why wouldn't they know that happened? Why would we have to explain it to them again?
Well, maybe they're listening to this before they watch the episode.
Then they're stupid.
Well, I don't think you should say that. Well, whatever.
This is the spoiler section.
Why did Jimmy do that? Is the disagreement between Marco and myself, and we'll see what happens. But even though it turned out bad for him in 2 ways. He still is pretty laid back and it's kind of just it's like having something rub off your back. Just like, oh well, it's just another day, another dollar, and everything will work out. And he's pretty laid back about it. Kim too.
I'm sick of him not doing anything bad too, because there's supposed to be some sort of a progression, a downward spiral.
And also, does anybody out there think that they'll have Jimmy be able to get revenge for what happened? That's another thing. Marco doesn't think so either. He doesn't agree, or he doesn't think so. I think maybe. I don't know either. But anyway, so Kim's got a little disagreement with Mesa Verde.
I was talking about Jimmy.
Jimmy's got a thing that happened to him when he bought these cell phones.
I was talking about his behavior.
And his behavior. So his behavior. Both of them seem to be.
He's not doing anything bad this whole entire season. So I don't understand how he's getting worse and worse. He's not even doing anything bad. Last season, he was doing stuff that was far worse than this. At the end of the season, with the old lady, that was horrible. And in this season, he's selling a Hummel figure. That's not very dastardly.
Well, that was stolen, and he had that set up to be stolen. And so that is bad. That was a
not as bad as
theft.
The thing with the old lady. Sorry.
Well, that was a personal thing, and after befriending her and then doing what he did, it is bad.
They were gonna throw the Hummels out anyway, so it's not really stealing.
Okay, well, should we talk about Howard now?
Yeah, now we can talk about Howard.
Okay, well, Jimmy has to go to the courthouse because every month, or maybe twice a month, he has to report to his probation officer because he got in trouble. So he's there to report to him, and so before he reports to him, after he was out the night before, remember, late, and something happened to him, and I guess he's just going to the bathroom, but of course he's getting ready for his probation officer, and he meets Howard in the bathroom. Well, Jimmy was out almost all night, and he got knocked out, but he's there, and he doesn't look too worse for wear, actually. He has a little bit of bumps and bruises, but not very many, and he's actually pretty laid back, But Howard, who probably a wealthy guy, has a great mansion and who knows what, his hair is all messy. He looks pale and he looks scattered and nervous and shaky. And you're like, what the heck? Because that is totally not Howard. You know, Howard's really smooth and everything seems perfect, and he always looks like he could have a martini in his hand and sitting by the pool in Arizona, and everything's cool, and he's a millionaire and probably drives a BMW or maybe even something even better. Who knows? But I mean, he never looks like anything bothers him.
Because of the letter.
And Marco thinks
I don't think I know.
that he is guilty. He's feeling guilty, one, because he thinks he's responsible for Chuck committing suicide, which he's not, okay? But also, Marco thinks that he wrote the letter that Jimmy got, because we talked about this before.
Yeah, I talked about Kim doing it.
Yeah.
I don't think so at all, especially...
No, I don't think Kim did it.
Especially because the actress on Twitter, she said, I've been seeing a lot of these theories. It was not the filmmaker's intention to make it look like Kim wrote the letter at all.
But the thing is, we have to review the letter that Jimmy got as part of the settlement. That it was left to him by Chuck. And Howard told Kim, because Jimmy wasn't there, Kim representative, remember this? That this letter was from Chuck to Jimmy, and that it was only for his eyes. And so then later on, or a few days later in the apartment, Jimmy read the letter and Kim listened, and it was in wording that sounded totally unlike Chuck. It did not sound like him at all. It was a very nice letter. I'm not saying it.
No, it wasn't. It was condescending and stupid.
But I mean, it wasn't like Chuck. It's not as bad as it could have been.
It had an error in it. And Chuck does not make errors at all.
And that's weird too. Because see, they're all lawyers, and yet they know, even Jimmy knows this, because of the thing with
who would make an error? Howard. Because he's feeling guilty.
Yeah.
And he's in a jumbled state writing the letter. That's who would make an error. Kim is focused all on herself.
Yeah.
Howard is focused on Jimmy and his brother.
So, just his mannerisms, his appearance, and he's only on there, like I said, for 5 minutes, but Jimmy just went through this thing the night before, but he looks like, just another day. But Howard looks like he's been through hell and back. And he actually admits to Jimmy, spoiler alert, that he's going to a psychotherapist twice a week. That is a lot. And a lot of money, too. So,
because of the letter.
Very telling. So, Marco says it's because of the letter.
Well, because the other thing that he says is, that's all I'm willing to share with you right now.
Yeah, he wouldn't say anything. And Jimmy remarked to him, you look terrible. And he says, I haven't been getting a lot of sleep lately.
Well, okay. Yeah.
And Jimmy, remember Kim told Jimmy to go get counseling, and she gave him some kind of card, and he doesn't want to do it. And he said, I found out about this good counselor to go see, and
just go watch the episode and you can see that happen.
Yeah, you'll just see the whole thing.
You don't need Sophie to tell you.
You've got to see what Howard's like, though. It's totally unlike he's ever been.
But in the next episode's preview, it shows Jimmy for some reason in Howard's office, and it shows Howard looking like he has something to tell Jimmy. And it's not an angry look. A lot of people are saying he knows that Jimmy did the insurance thing. That's a bunch of nothing. Because...
No, I don't believe that.
he would have been angry with him in the bathroom, and he would not have been asking him advice on insomnia. He would be like, F you, and silently walk out if he knew that Jimmy was a part of that.
Okay, well, we better get to the,
Yeah, because we're at 40 minutes now.
yeah, we ever get, let's just get to the last thing. What the thing about Mike, I don't know if you want to, I think you just better watch it and you figure it out yourself and
Yeah.
you see what, if you think you come up with what we think it is, because it's the only thing it has to be. And it really sounds terrible, but I'm just going to leave it at that. But Marco found out something interesting, I don't know, from his research online about the series that he's very upset about. And what did you find out, Marco?
Well, it's just an irritating trend that doesn't seem to die off. That TV shows can only be a certain amount of episodes. They can only have a certain amount of seasons, or else they're wearing out their welcome. So, like, a show can only have 10 episodes. If you have more than that, then you're overstaying your welcome. I think that's a bunch of crap, and I think it's nonsense. And I think that it's actually limiting creativity to say, oh, we have to do this perfect little season every time, and it just has to be this perfect little thing. There's no room for any creativity. It's like a factory made thing. And they said that they want it to be only 5 seasons. They said they couldn't see it go on longer than Breaking Bad because they're afraid it'll overshadow Breaking Bad. And I've got news. It's already overshadowing Breaking Bad because it has better writing than Breaking Bad. Sorry.
Well, also Breaking Bad is in the past now. And even though this is supposed to be I'll just say a prequel, which, I'm sure there's a better word, but it's been there, done that now, and I think they could do more.
They could do a lot more. There's a lot of stuff they have to set up. Breaking Bad doesn't take place until 2007. It's 2003 in the Better Call Saul universe.
So that's 5 years.
Yeah.
And they're going to only have one more season. They're going to put 5 years into one season. I mean, that's totally.
Plus the future stuff.
Oh yeah, the black and white and the Cinnabon
and
stuff.
The stuff in Breaking Bad. They said they wanted to show, like stuff that was going on during Breaking Bad.
I don't know how that's going to work, but they did. I thought I was appreciative that they showed this scene where he was cleaning out his office and breaking through the wall to get his money and breaking through the ceiling tiles to find his little pack of money, and that same secretary was there. He's had the whole time, and he has to give her some money before and she's been shredding files, and so I'm glad that they did that because we never got to see that, even though why should we?
What do you think about this topic, Sophie?
Well, I just think that's ridiculous that next year would be the last year. No, nobody's made an official announcement. Marco's not saying that. He's just been reading about comments that have been made.
In other interviews, like an interview they did last year, they said it might go on longer than Breaking Bad because we have a lot of stuff we'd like to explore. Like the future could have its own season. And this year they're saying the exact opposite.
Yeah, so we don't know, but we want to know what you think. Do you think that the next season should be Better Call Saul's last season, so as not to ruin the symmetry with Breaking Bad?
Yeah, the symmetry.
That's what they said. That's what he said he read about.
It shows that Breaking Bad's wimpy series count, only 5 seasons with 13 episodes each. The last episode is like 17 episodes. It shows that wimpy kind of series can have a damaging effect. It'll limit creativity because right now you see the creators want to limit their creativity so that they can have it look good with Breaking Bad in a Blu-ray box set.
No, it just doesn't make sense. Making a TV show and making a movie is art. And why would you limit yourself and put your art in a box and limit it by saying, oh, it's only going to be 5 seasons because we have to have it be symmetrical with Breaking Bad, which was only 5 seasons. That's asinine.
They said they might be doing a 20-episode season 5.
Which
is basically
supposedly cover 5 years.
5 years plus the future in 20 episodes.
Plus the future, which is Jimmy in black and white working at Cinnabon.
But what's funny about that is it's 10 episodes a season, so that's 2 seasons and one
in 1 year.
In Better Call Saul's universe.
Right. So anyway, if you want to make a comment about that,
yeah.
I mean, really, don't you people out there have an opinion about these things? Do you think that these long scenes where they're doing some kind of setup, which you know what that's for, with Gus and Mike and that stranger coming in, he's making all those measurements. It's a very long scene and it's very meticulous. He has all these different instruments and he's making all these measurements. Do you think those kinds of long scenes are necessary for the story? Because at Breaking Bad, everything had to be in place. It didn't just happen overnight. So these things had to take time to set up. And then do you think that this needs to be a 5-year series in order to have symmetry with Breaking Bad? Whatever, we'd like to hear from you. You're welcome to leave a comment. And also, if you want to, you could subscribe.
Well, you should subscribe. If you don't subscribe, then I don't even know why you're watching this video because...
Or listening. But
yeah,
anyway,
well, some people might want to stare at a black screen.
Well, what I do is I do chores and I listen to YouTube stuff on my phone. So
that's how it's meant to be.
Which is very helpful. I've been reading a lot of books lately by doing that.
But this happens all the time.
Yeah, Marco's upset too that this is a trend with all TV shows. The only one I can think of 2 TV shows.
Hannibal.
Well, no, I could think of 2 that have gone on for a million years. One is The Simpsons. Oh, and Saturday Night Live.
The Simpsons.
And Supernatural.
The reason why The Simpsons... Well, see, there's good and bad. But the thing is that they're already only doing 10 episodes a season, which is nowhere near the amount of episodes that normal TV shows do.
That's right. So they're already shorting themselves in these seasons.
They're very shorting themselves with all of this.
I mean, I don't watch Supernatural, but I bet they get more than 10 episodes a season.
Yeah, they get like over 20.
So at least they get more. And then I'm not sure with Saturday Night Live.
Hannibal had 13 episodes a season. And, Brian Fuller effed his fans, and he went back on his promise. He said that the first 3 seasons were going to be completely original stories. Complete lie, because then the 3rd season, he took 3 seasons worth of material and jammed it all together, to rush the show to end in 5 seasons. And, I hate that. I absolutely hate it with a passion. I mean, Sherlock does that. They have 4 episodes, 3 to 4 episodes a season or so, and the episodes don't really connect, they're just movies. And, I hate it. I think it's very damaging, especially because, like, there's so many possibilities with
Yeah.
this Better Call Saul universe. And, like, could you imagine if we had had 20 something episodes in season 3? All the different things that they could have done, all the different character development stories, more Chuck, more Jimmy. Not just having more of them for the sake of having more of them, but to explore the world more and explore doing new things that you might not have expected. Excuse me, when you were writing the 10 episodes. God, excuse me again. When you're writing the 10 episodes, maybe after the 10 episodes, you could discover new ways and discover new things to make the show more interesting instead of just limiting yourself.
Okay, well, we better stop, okay?
Yeah.
And we will see you next time, and we still have to do our new releases, and we haven't been able to do that, but we will. So be on the watch for that. And I also have 2 book reviews I'm going to be doing too, since I've been reading so many books on not Audible but Hoopla. If you ever want to get free books, free movies, free comic books, free audio recordings, of different music, try Hoopla. It's really good and it's free. So anyway, we'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.